Welcome to the County Compass, Columbia County's guide to news, voices, and perspectives, hosted by County Manager Scott Johnson. This podcast is your behind-the-scenes look at what's happening in county government and across our community. We'll talk about the services, projects, and decisions that make Columbia County a great place to live. We're glad you're here. Thanks for listening to the County Compass. Now, here's Scott Johnson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the County Compass, the podcast that keeps you connected to the people, projects, and progress making Columbia County one of the best places to live, work, and raise a family in Georgia. I'm your host, County Manager Scott Johnson. Today, we're going to be talking about our recent election here in Columbia County and in Georgia. We're going to kind of talk a little bit about that. We're not going to get into specific outcomes and candidates and stuff like that, but I did want to talk about the process because I got an opportunity to spend some time observing this time, and just kind of want to give you the insights on that. So let's just jump right in. We'll jump right in. You know, as Columbia County continues to grow and thrive, we need that strong civic engagement. You know, when we have a controversial rezoning or something like that, or we have a situation where somebody's asking for a variance at their house and it may affect their neighbors or their neighborhood, people will come out in situations like that. They'll come out in force. They want to be heard, and that's the right way to do it. That's the way democracy works. You need to engage your elected officials. Kind of the same thing applies, you know, when you get ready to choose your next representative, and that's the whole voting process. So you need to do the same thing. You need to have that same passion, and I think we're kind of in a situation here that it, you know, maybe some people think it's not broken, maybe some people think that it is, or for whatever reason we'll dive into today, our voter turnout was low. So we're going to talk about that and why you need to be as passionate about voting as you are about that rezoning or that variance or, you know, whatever's happening right in your backyard. So let's set the stage. So the election process, every election in Columbia County is a result of very careful planning, testing, training, coordination. Now, we've talked about it in previous episodes. A county is a political subdivision of the state. So in Columbia County, our Board of Elections, they are county employees. They are overseen by a board that is appointed according to the code. So we have a certain way of appointing those folks. But this whole process is like it's a process of the state, right? So the county's conducting the elections, and we have county employees that are overseen by the Board of Elections that are actually doing the work. But it is a subdivision of the state, and the state kind of sets the rules for us. They give us the equipment that we have to use. They tell us exactly what paper we have to use, and the hours that we're open is all dictated by state law. So we have to follow that to a T. Specifically, getting ready to set everything up, we have to make sure that the polls are open and ready to go. On Election Day, on May 19th, our polls opened at 7 a.m. and they closed at 7 p.m. We're going to talk a little bit about the logistics that go into that and how we make all that stuff work. But we have to, I guess, before we get there, we have to set everything up. So let me just kind of give you a little background and kind of sneak peek inside of how we do that. Our Board of Elections Director, Nancy Gay, that I'm going to talk about here in just a second, she coordinates with departments like our Roads and Bridges Department. We use those for our labor to go out and load the voting machines and to make sure that they stay secure. We don't have enough trucks. We actually go out and rent transport-type trucks, and we load them up. We load them up with all the voting equipment. We make sure that's all secure, and then we get them out in place. And again, that starts in the wee hours of the morning and goes all the way into the late hours of the night until we can get everything secured. So that started this time, and everything was set up at 7 a.m. when the polls opened. Everything was set up, and that was, again, a lot of coordination and effort that went into that. While we're talking about kind of the effort, I do want to give a shout out to Nancy Gay, our Executive Director. So, and her outstanding staff. They just do an amazing job every election. But Nancy's been with the county for, I guess, around 2 decades, a long time, 20 plus years, does a great job. She leads the elections with professionalism, integrity, and a commitment to serve our residents. she has a very small core group of staff, but she has a much larger group of networks. Again, maybe it's other departments that are helping or whatever. But we also have our poll workers that are just coming in for that one particular day. So she has a large group of poll workers that she has to make sure is trained and has everything that they need. But she has to pull together this whole team. And a lot of times it's different people. So imagine coming to work every day and having a completely different group of people that you're working with, that you have to make sure that they're trained and they're doing everything exactly right. She does a great job of coordinating that. They work really long hours leading up to election day. And then, of course, on election day, they're up early in the morning and going late into the night. So what is her role as the executive director? It's Nancy's job and responsibility to make sure that the election process goes smoothly, that she is the person there to make on-the-ground decisions on behalf of the organization. She has her board ready. We even have a Superior Court judge on standby on election night, like on-call type situation, and we identify that ahead of time, just if there's any sort of legal challenges or whatever. So Nancy has to coordinate all that stuff and getting everything ready for election day, and then making sure that the numbers are posted timely and accurately. I used to have I actually saw this sign, but I used to do some tinkering in my shop, doing some gunsmithing, and I turned it into a little business. It's been many years ago. I stopped doing that a long time ago, but back in my law enforcement days and working with State Patrol, I got into gunsmithing, and I had a little sign in my little makeshift shop that I had there that said, I can do it right, I can do it fast, or I can do it cheap. Pick two. And it's kind of that situation where, I can do it fast and I can do it cheap, but it may not be right. Or I can do it right and I can do it fast, but that may be more expensive. So anyway, that whole process goes into what I'm talking about here with Nancy Gay and how she does it all. She does it for as inexpensively as possible, but she does it very efficiently. She does it very quickly. But at the end of the day, the responsibility for her is to do it right, to make sure that the numbers are right. So it takes a little longer, fine, but she has to make sure that she does that right. I want to talk about the poll workers again. I know that these are our neighbors, and I love visiting the polls from time to time and talking to these poll workers. A lot of them are retirees or business owners, a lot of teachers that can get the day off. But it's just a very interesting group. A lot of them have done it for years and years and years, so it's interesting to see them and talk to them. It gives them something to do to be able to serve their community and also make a little extra money. But again, those 12 to 14-hour days on that one day that is so important to our democracy, they're doing what they need to do, and they're doing it with extreme accuracy. So again, Nancy, thank you for doing it as inexpensively as possible, but also doing it quickly and doing it right every single time. Let's talk a little bit about turnout. And I think turnout was a big thing in this election. We had some very close elections locally. Our chair race was actually decided by 109 votes. I think that's the closest race that I've ever seen in Columbia County. But again, the election results are the election results. But let's talk about this. We have over 113,000 registered voters in Columbia County for this election, 113,117. Roughly 32,900-ish ballots were cast. That results in a turnout of about 29.1%. So 29.1% of the people get to choose who's going to represent them and who's going to go forward. Is that right? Well, the answer is yes, because that's the way it's set up. We don't force people to vote, and people have reasons why they don't, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But, if you want to be engaged in your community and you want to know what's going on and you want to shape the future of the community, then we need to pick our representatives. We need to make our voices heard that way and pick our representatives because we are a representative democracy. We elect people that speak on our behalf, and then if we don't like that person, we elect somebody else to speak on our behalf, and then the majority rules. So in this case, it's the majority of 29% of the voters that ruled. I would think that we would all want more participation. It goes back in my mind to when we were trying to put together our comprehensive plan, and we set up all these meetings and workshops and all the things, and we put out all the information about trying to get the public out because we wanted the public to help us shape that document and shape our foundations for the future. And we had very, very little turnout. Very few people showed up to participate. And again, that makes that whatever the will is of the small group is what's heard. And that's kind of what we move forward with. So, again, just trying to encourage people to get out. I think these types of elections, if you look at it and compare it to recent elections, it is a little bit lower. But a primary election is usually in that 20 to 30%, meaning that most people don't even participate in the primaries. And this isn't about assigning blame to anybody or chastising anyone for not coming out. It's just an opportunity for a conversation, and I think that we're really seeing it kind of all over the country. Voting is one of our most fundamental rights that we have as Americans. The local elections, like I said, they directly affect us, our roads, our parks, our taxes, our public safety, the growth in the county, the future plans, all those things. They affect our daily lives, and probably more than anything else. So again, I think it's important for us to turn out and be a part of that. Every vote truly does count. Like I said, there was a situation here for the chair race. It was separated by 109 votes. So every single person that did cast their ballot and they made their voice heard. Every vote counts. Why would turnout be low? It's kind of hard to speculate there. I think there's many factors. Probably the biggest one, honestly, is probably just busy schedules. We are busier than we've ever been as Americans. We have so much going on, and we're drawn in so many different directions. And, we're just busy, and people forget. And even though you've seen all the signs on the road and we've advertised it, we've talked about it, and you've heard everything. It's been publicly, put out there. People are just busy. They had a ball game instead. I meant to go vote, but I got busy at work today, so I didn't have an opportunity to go do that, which is one of the reasons why it's so important to recognize when we're in political season that we have early voting now. We have several weeks leading up to the actual election where you can go cast your ballot, and we have multiple locations for you to do that. They're kind of spread around the county. So that's an opportunity for us to be able to go out and do that. Some people like to wait for election day, but then all of a sudden their schedule gets busy and they're not allowed to do that. We have Saturday voting too. I think I didn't mention that. So, even if you're busy during the week and you can't get to one of the early voting locations, during the day, you can do that on a Saturday as well. So lots of opportunities, but people are super, super busy, juggling their family, doing the school activities, the sports, and, all the commitments that they have. I think another one in the primary is the perception that the primary is less important. A lot of people think, well, I don't really need to go vote in this election. I'm going to wait to November to elect the person that I really want to be in there. Well, I think what we have to be careful about there is in the primaries, you may have two good candidates there, and the voters need to choose that person to see, who that person is going to go face in the general election. Because, the primaries are more party based, right? The Republicans have a primary, the Democrats have a primary, the independents can participate in those to an extent, but we choose our representatives that we want to, I guess, go to the next step, and that happened here. We have a lot of runoffs because we had races with multiple people in them. So just while I'm on that topic, I'll touch on that for just a second. Georgia law requires you to get 50% of the votes plus one vote to win. And so if you're in a situation where there are three candidates and somebody gets 47% and then the other two candidates split the remaining and nobody gets 50%, then the top two vote getters will go into a runoff. And that's going to be just in a couple of weeks. We'll have that runoff to determine all of those winners because you have to have that 50% plus one vote. There were some questions about the chair race that I mentioned that was so close with the 109 votes. Would there be a runoff in that race? Well, no, because there's two candidates. So whoever got 50% plus one would be the winner in that race. So no chance for a runoff, regardless of how close it is. The only chance for the runoff is if you don't get 50% of the vote, and then it's the top two vote getters. So the primary is important, I guess, is my point there, that the primary is very important, but a lot of people just don't get out and do that. Voter fatigue. I think voter fatigue is also another one that we see. People are just they just feel like their vote doesn't matter anymore. Um, they voted in all these elections, and in their mind, nothing has changed. So there's really no reason for them to vote in anything else. So I think voter fatigue is a big thing. We see a lot of political ads now. You can't get away from it. There are billboards, there are signs, there are radio ads, TV ads, mailers. Now they're targeting your cell phone, social media. If you have social media, all those things people are doing. So we get tired of it. We just get tired of hearing it, get tired of seeing it, and we just really get fatigued. Lack of a competitive race. Now, I don't think that was the case in Columbia County this time. We had a very spirited race for our commission seats. We had a spirited school board race here locally as well. Some of our other constitutional officers didn't have challenges, but we had this was one of those situations where we had people turn out. There were people that were talking the issues, getting behind their candidates, and that wasn't the case here. But sometimes a lack of a competitive race. People are like, so and so is going to win by a landslide. I'm not going to worry about voting. And then weather, health concerns, or just simply forgetting about it. I mean, all those things come into play. We had beautiful weather this time. Everything was good. There might have been some health concerns. People couldn't get out, but again, whatever the reason, I just feel like we could do better as a community and just really get out and see that as part of our civic duty, and then get out there and do something about that. Oh, one thing I didn't mention, I think there was one that I left off, and that was we're talking about why people don't vote. Some people don't vote because they're happy with where they are. They just feel like, hey, everything's going great, and the country's fine, and I'm fine, and I'm doing well, and I like the community I live in. I don't want to change anything, so I'm not going to vote. Folks, if you take that mentality, then one day you're going to wake up and it's not going to be the way it is now because we didn't have the right people in place, and then it's going to be too late. So, make sure we don't take that for granted. So forget about that part. So, with that, we can do better. We have a lot of accessible voting now in Columbia County. We have a great process. We have a great staff. It's easy to go in and touch the little machine. We get a paper ballot now that we actually put in the box. All that stuff has to be accounted for. There's tons of security, which I'm going to talk about here in just a second when we start talking about the most ridiculous thing I've heard. But again, the process is good. It's available. We just need to use it. So mark your calendar for either the primary runoffs if you happen to have one of those that you can vote in, and if not, make sure that you vote in November. With that, thank you to our poll workers. Thank you for our Board of Elections. Thank you for all the volunteers and people that work. Thank you for the candidates that stepped up that want to make our community better. We appreciate you. Just being willing to be a candidate, being willing to serve other people. And for those of you that didn't vote this time, we hope you join us next time. Remember, make a plan and bring a friend, family member, or whatever. Make it whatever we need to do to make Columbia County's future bright. So as promised, I'm going to give you the most ridiculous thing that I've heard lately. And this was just the other night. We were talking about this with the voting. That we had ballot tampering in Columbia County, and that in some way, shape, or form, maybe me or other county employees could have infiltrated this and changed the outcome of the election. I love to say this in my podcast, folks. It's absolutely ridiculous. There are so many checks and balances, first of all, and then we have more integrity than to do that. I spoke about Nancy and her staff. They do a great job of security and integrity and making sure everything's done right. There are poll watchers. There are people from the parties that are at the polls when the results are being tabulated. There are Republican representatives, there are Democrat representatives, the members of the press are there. The way the tally room and building is set up, again, is part of an effort to make it more efficient in Columbia County. But there's glass in there where you can see everything that's going on. There's nothing going on behind the closed doors. But I mentioned our chair race. In our chair race, it came down to 109 votes, and that actually came down to absentee ballots because there were over 600, almost 700 absentee, I think it was 697 absentee ballots that were cast in this election. And the Columbia County chair race was very, very close, neck and neck between Allison Couch and Gary Jones. So it went into the absentee votes. And I was physically present at the building. I was there, again, with a member of the Republican Party, a member of the Democratic Party, and the press. We were all there together, looking at each other the entire time, waiting for these results to come in. I never stepped foot in the room where the ballots were being counted, never brought any ballots, added any ballots, did anything, like that. And I don't think a lot of people are accusing anybody of that. But, when you even hear that, when you work so hard to maintain your integrity, and then you hear that, oh, well, yeah, the county manager, walked in the 11th hour and rigged the election by, coming up with these extra ballots. Folks, it's absolutely ridiculous. There are no extra ballots. The numbers that are counted are the numbers that are counted. And we have complete and full faith in our staff and our process and the way we do business here in Columbia County. So just wanted to tell you about that. It's kind of part of all the whole same theme here. We're talking about voting. The process itself is safe, is secure. We could say we want paper ballots and we can let the state decide which way they want to go. But I remember, and I know a lot of you remember, the old hanging chads when we used to go punch the ballot. And then there was a little piece that didn't come all the way off. And was that a count? Was that a yes or a no? We don't have that anymore. And I know people are worried about hacking and computers and being able to get in there. Scott Johnson's the last person you want hacking your computer. I rarely can remember my own passwords. So I'm not a computer hacker. I don't have the ability to do that. And I think that even the people that are good at it, they're going to have a hard time doing it just because of the safety and security. So, again, thank you for listening to this episode of the County Compass. If you have any questions about anything, as always, you can reach out to us via columbiacountyga.gov, our website. You can always call our office, reach out through normal channels. If you have questions about voting specifically, if you want to know if you're registered, if you want to know if you can register now, or if you need to wait to the next election, if you want to know when the next election is, or the early voting, or where the precincts will be, any of those things, reach out to the Board of Elections. You can do that by calling them at 706-868-3355. Or again, you can visit our website and just go to government and look down and find Board of Elections. That wraps up our episode of the County Compass this time. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, make sure that you subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Leave us a review. More importantly, thank you for tuning in today and being an engaged part of our community. Hopefully, we will continue to be more engaged as it comes to voting. Your input and participation do make our county stronger. Stay safe, stay involved, and keep loving this county as much as I do. Take care.
This has been the County Compass, Columbia County's guide to news, voices, and perspectives. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you taking the time to stay informed about the issues, initiatives, and people impacting our community. And we sincerely hope today's conversation helps you better understand the work being done in Columbia County. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. As always, visit Columbia County's official website or social media channels for additional information. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.